In the last 2 years, companies have poured more money into artificial intelligence than any technology in human history. Not billions, trillions. Microsoft is spending over $60 billion building AI data centers. Google, Meta, Amazon, every major giant is burning cash at a rate the world has never seen. Politicians say AI will make life easier. CEOs say it will change everything. But here's what no one wants to admit. The math doesn't work, and regular people are the ones paying for it. Right now, AI is the biggest financial bubble of our lifetime. In 2023, companies spent around $200 billion on AI hardware. In 2024, it jumped to around $350 billion. This year could cross $400 billion, nearly $1 trillion in 3 years, just on infrastructure. When you combine chips, data centers, research, acquisitions, cloud power, electricity, and staffing, global AI investments now sit in the multi-trillion-dollar range. But here's the insane part. The revenue isn't even close. OpenAI makes around $3-4 billion per year, yet spends billions on GPU compute and electricity. Microsoft's AI products bring in maybe $10-15 billion after spending more than $60 billion to build them. Google's Gemini barely generates enough to justify the tens of billions poured into it. Meta is burning billions on AI and their metaverse experiments. Amazon's Alexa still isn't profitable after a decade. Almost every AI company is losing money. If a normal business spent like this, it would collapse overnight. But big tech keeps the illusion alive because the hype is too valuable to let die. And the worst part? None of this helps ordinary people. Your groceries didn't get cheaper because AI exists. Your rent didn't drop. Your job didn't get easier. Instead, everything got more annoying. Customer service is now automated and useless. Job applications are screened by bots. Schools punish students because AI might have written their homework. Artists watch their creations get scraped into data sets. Offices replace workers with AI automation and then quietly rehire them when the AI breaks. AI didn't make life easier. It made everything more robotic. Meanwhile, AI is swallowing energy at a terrifying rate. Training GPT-4 consumed enough electricity to power 5,000 homes for a year. Running today's AI models requires giant data centers that consume as much power as entire towns. A single Nvidia H100 cluster can draw up to 70 megawatts nonstop. That's tens of millions of dollars per year just in electricity. And companies are building dozens of these facilities. So power companies raise rates, governments hand out tax breaks to tech giants, and regular people pay the difference. This isn't a friendly tool being built for humanity. It's a trillion-dollar arms race between corporations and governments. It's about control, automation, surveillance, and cutting labor costs, not improving society. And now that these companies have sunk billions into AI, they're raising subscription prices, locking features behind paywalls, and cutting customer benefits to recover their losses. The public never asked for AI to replace everything, but we're paying for it anyway. And the truth investors fear most? The revenue isn't scaling. ChatGPT subscriber growth has slowed down. Copilot adoption is weaker than expected. Google's AI is free because people don't want to pay for it. Enterprise AI is slow to integrate and far more expensive than companies expected. Yes, AI can write emails and code. Yes, it can summarize documents, but none of those things create the kind of revenue needed to justify trillions in investment. This is how bubbles form. It happened in the dot-com boom with companies worth billions despite having no profits. It happened with crypto, with VR, with autonomous driving. Every bubble starts with a miracle and ends with a math problem. And right now, AI is the biggest math problem in the world. So who loses when the bubble pops? Not CEOs, not the investors, not the politicians. They'll cash out before the crash. The people who lose are the workers, the consumers, the public, the ones who end up paying higher electricity bills, dealing with layoffs, and watching companies shut down after burning through billions. AI won't disappear, but the fantasy will. And when investors finally accept that the profits aren't coming, trillions in value will vanish. AI promised a revolution. What it delivered is corporate control, higher costs, more surveillance, and a world that feels less human every day. The hype says AI will save everything. But the truth is simple. The expectations are impossible. The spending is unsustainable and the bubble is already making noise. And when the $10 trillion wave finally crashes, people will realize something they should have known from the start. It was never built for us. Every bubble has a moment where the surface starts to break. Slow at first, then all at once. And the AI bubble is already showing those early fractures. Not in the technology itself, but in the business model, the economics, and the expectations behind it. The warning signs are everywhere and they're getting louder each month, but the people pouring money into this industry refuse to hear them. The first big crack is slowing user growth. When ChatGPT launched, it was the fastest growing app in history. Everyone tried it, everyone posted screenshots, everyone said it would change everything. But by late 2023 and 2024, adoption stopped exploding. In fact, global web traffic to ChatGPT actually dropped during several months. Meanwhile, paid subscriptions like ChatGPT Plus aren't growing fast enough to support the infrastructure costs behind the model. The same thing is happening with Microsoft's Copilot. Microsoft hoped every office worker on Earth would use AI daily. They expected businesses to pay massive fees to integrate Copilot into their workflows. But adoption reports show something different. Most companies test it, few adopt it at scale, and even fewer renew after trial periods. Why? Because the promised productivity boosts often don't appear. AI makes tasks faster, but not always better. And companies don't spend millions unless the return is crystal clear. Google is seeing the same pattern. Their Gemini rollout was messy, rushed, and filled with errors. Most people don't use Google's AI features unless they're forced to. That's why Google keeps them free, because charging would collapse adoption completely. Meta launched Meta AI across all its platforms, and what happened? Users complained. They didn't want it showing up in search bars, chats, and feeds. People wanted Facebook, not a chatbot. The second major crack is the cost problem, and this one is impossible to hide. Running AI is expensive in a way no previous tech boom has ever been. The more people use AI, the more it costs the companies to serve each response. This is the reverse of what a healthy business looks like. Normal tech scales cheaply. Once you build an app, serving more users becomes almost free. AI scales in the most expensive direction possible. Think about that. AI becomes more costly the more successful it gets. That's not a business model, it's a trap. Even Sam Altman has publicly admitted that the current approach to AI is not financially sustainable and that OpenAI needs new breakthroughs in energy and chip design just to survive long term. When the CEO says the business model doesn't work, you should listen. The third crack is the shortage crisis. Power shortages, chip shortages, and water shortages. Nvidia controls around 80-90% of the global market for high-end AI chips. Data centers need massive amounts of electricity and cooling. Google and Microsoft reported massive spikes in water consumption to keep servers running. In some regions, local communities are protesting because tech companies are draining water supplies for cooling towers. This isn't speculation. These are documented numbers in official sustainability reports. Even the US power grid is being strained by AI expansion. Regions like Virginia, Texas, and Oregon already warned that they cannot support unlimited data center growth. The more AI grows, the more pressure it places on real physical infrastructure, and that means rising costs for everyone else. Then comes the fourth crack, the one nobody wants to talk about. AI still can't do what companies promised it would do. Autonomous driving was supposed to be solved years ago. It isn't. AI assistants were supposed to replace office work. They didn't. Chatbots were supposed to eliminate customer service. They made it worse. Creative tools were supposed to democratize art. They triggered lawsuits instead. Even advanced GPT-level systems still hallucinate, still make factual mistakes, still break under simple reasoning tasks. AI is powerful, but it's not reliable enough to replace human judgment. And that unreliability is exactly why companies hesitate to deploy it widely. No CEO wants a billion-dollar mistake because a model made something up. The fifth crack is the political part, governments panicking. Regulators in the EU are passing strict laws. The US government is investigating AI safety, copyright issues, and monopolistic behavior. China is tightening its own rules. When governments step in this aggressively, it's usually because a boom is overheating. Regulation isn't coming because AI is too powerful. It's coming because the market is spinning out of control. And finally, the biggest crack of all, investor fatigue. When investors stop believing in the magic, bubbles burst. And right now, venture capital firms are quietly admitting that AI startups with no profits and massive cloud bills are becoming impossible to justify. Many AI companies are already failing privately, shutting down, selling for scraps, or pivoting away from AI entirely. You don't see the failures in the headlines, but they're happening every week. The public doesn't notice all these cracks because big tech controls the narrative. They pump out marketing, documentaries, speeches, and headlines claiming AI is the future. They need people to believe in the hype, because the second people stop believing, the money stops flowing. And without the money, the bubble pops. AI isn't collapsing because the technology is bad. It's collapsing because the economics are impossible. When spending grows faster than revenue, when expectations outpace reality, when hype replaces math, a reckoning always follows. Every bubble ends the same way. Not with an explosion, but with pressure. A slow tightening. A squeeze on the people at the bottom while the people at the top quietly step aside. And the AI bubble will be no different. When $10 trillion gets poured into anything, chips, data centers, electricity, talent, and corporate hype, someone has to pay for it when the numbers don't add up. Spoiler, it won't be the CEOs and it won't be the investors. It's always the people with the least power who get squeezed. And that squeeze has already started. The first impact is higher prices for everything, even for people who don't care about AI at all. Data centers use enormous amounts of electricity, and utilities aren't shy about passing those costs to regular households. In states like Virginia and Texas, families are already seeing rate hikes directly tied to new AI data centers demanding massive chunks of the power grid. Think about that. Your light bill goes up, so a corporation can train a chatbot. Water rates rise because data centers need millions of gallons for cooling. Cities like Mesa, Arizona, and the Dalles, Oregon already confirmed this publicly. Tech companies get sweetheart deals. The public pays the difference. And the more AI innovation expands, the more the rest of the world foots the bill. The second impact is job disruption disguised as efficiency. Companies fire workers, announce AI automation, brag about cost cutting, then quietly rehire contractors or cheaper labor when the AI doesn't work as promised. But the layoffs stick, the wages don't recover, and the jobs don't come back the same way. Customer support gets replaced with bots that make everything worse. Entry-level office work disappears even though the AI that replaced it makes constant mistakes. Creative workers see their art scraped and copied while being told they should just adapt. And all of this happens while the companies doing it lose money. But the workers who paid the price never get compensated when the bubble bursts. The third impact is subscription inflation. Every major tech company is raising prices, not because their products improved, but because they're trying to cover the cost of AI. Netflix raised prices, Spotify raised prices, Microsoft raised prices, LinkedIn raised prices, Adobe raised prices. Even Google is adding new premium tiers. This is what bubbles do. They drain public money to paper over investor mistakes. AI was supposed to make everything cheaper. Instead, it's making everything more expensive, and the benefits almost never flow to normal people. The fourth impact is smaller companies getting crushed. AI hardware prices are so high that only trillion-dollar companies can afford to participate. A single Nvidia H100 costs tens of thousands of dollars. Full racks cost millions. Training large models costs hundreds of millions. Startups, they can't compete. Independent researchers, locked out. Small businesses, forced to buy whatever AI tools big tech gives them. This isn't innovation, it's consolidation. AI didn't democratize anything. It centralized power into the hands of a few corporations and turned everyone else into customers at their mercy. The fifth impact is governments quietly shifting the burden. To attract AI companies, cities hand out tax breaks, billions in incentives, free land, subsidized energy, discounted utilities. Politicians call it investment, but someone has to fill the hole those tax breaks create. That someone is always the public. Higher taxes, higher fees, reduced services, cuts to education, transportation, healthcare. You name it. Big tech gets the reward, the public gets the bill. But the most damaging impact, the one no one is ready for, is what happens when the revenue fails to appear, because it is failing to appear. AI companies are generating only a tiny fraction of the revenue needed to support the $10 trillion being poured into the industry. Usage growth is slowing. Enterprise adoption is weaker than expected. AI assistants are not earning anywhere near what they cost to run. Investors can stomach this for a while, but not forever. And when they finally panic, when they realize the profits aren't coming, they'll pull their money out fast. Stock prices will tumble. Startups will vanish overnight. AI divisions inside big companies will get gutted. Tens of thousands of workers will be laid off. Projects will be abandoned mid-development. And just like in the dot-com crash or the 2008 housing collapse, the people hurt most will be the everyday workers, the ones who had no control, no insider information, no golden parachutes. Meanwhile, the CEOs will walk away with bonuses. The investors will hedge their losses. The politicians will pretend they had no idea. And the public will be left paying for a bubble it didn't create and never asked for. This is the truth behind the AI revolution nobody wants to admit. It's not built for ordinary people, and it won't benefit ordinary people when it falls apart. What comes next isn't a dramatic blackout or a sci-fi apocalypse. It's a slow tightening of life. Higher bills, fewer jobs, worse services, more restrictions, more dependence on the same corporations that lit the fuse. A collapse disguised as innovation. A crisis disguised as progress. A squeeze disguised as the future. And here's the part nobody in Silicon Valley wants to admit. The crash won't start with a dramatic headline. It'll start quietly with something small. A disappointing earnings call, a major AI startup running out of cash, a government report showing AI energy consumption is straining the grid. One tiny crack, and suddenly everyone realizes the numbers never added up. Because when investors finally look past the hype, they'll see the truth. AI revenue isn't growing fast enough to support the spending. ChatGPT subscriptions aren't exploding anymore. Microsoft Copilot isn't being adopted at the rate investors hoped. Google keeps giving Gemini away for free because people won't pay extra. And businesses testing AI are discovering something uncomfortable. It helps, but not enough to justify the insane cost. Meanwhile, AI models are getting bigger, hungrier, and more expensive. Every new upgrade needs more chips, more electricity, more cooling, more land, more everything. And as costs rise, the pressure on companies becomes unbearable. They can't cut spending because if they fall behind in AI, their stock price collapses. But they also can't keep spending forever because the revenue simply isn't there. That's when the layoffs start. First at the startups, then at the big players. AI projects quietly get canceled. Research teams get merged or shut down. Governments stop approving new data center projects because the power grid can't handle them. Energy prices spike, bills rise, and the public starts asking why they're paying for a technological revolution that hasn't improved their lives. This is how all bubbles end. Not with a sudden explosion, with a slow, painful realization that the future everyone was promised isn't coming. Investors panic. Stocks drop. Funding dries up. The AI arms race stalls. And trillions of dollars in expected value evaporate almost overnight. But here's the most important part. AI won't disappear. Just like the internet didn't disappear after the dot-com crash. What disappears is the fantasy. The idea that AI would replace everything, fix everything, and generate limitless profit. What remains are the practical, boring, genuinely useful tools that integrate into daily life without the hype. The difference is that by the time we reach that point, the damage will already be done. Workers will have been replaced, rehired, downsized, automated, and burned out. Energy prices will be higher. The tech giants will be even more powerful. Governments will have more surveillance tools than ever. And everyday people will be stuck in a world run by systems they never asked for and can't escape. When the AI bubble finally bursts, the people who created it will be fine. They'll walk away with bonuses, stock options, and buyouts. The losses will fall on everyone else, the public, the workers, the consumers, just like every bubble before it. Because in the end, the AI revolution wasn't built to help us. It was built to reshape the world around the companies who control it. And when this $10 trillion bubble finally snaps, the truth will be impossible to ignore. The future they promised was never real, just another system designed to extract control and profit until the moment the math collapses.